Today we're celebrating the poetry and prose of Brian. In 2018, Brian and I began interviews with the aim of a book on his life. That's why I'm here. Which would include a section on his relationship with David Wojnarowicz from his point of view and possibly written in prose. Brian's nickname in high school was Rimbaud. Him and David went on to create a series of photos, Rimbaud in New York. They influenced each other. It was deep and freewheeling, and they navigated addictive currents, their foreboding destinations, and their day-to-day together for a while. Over the following years, they worked for and succeeded in what they loved. Today, July 22nd, is the 31st anniversary of David's death. And I know a few of his really good friends are here too, and Brian's very good friends. So back in 1982, Brian wrote the foreword to David's first book, Sounds in the Distance. It was not used, only paraphrased on the back cover, yet I think it says so much about Brian as it does about David. Here it is. Forward. It was as if I was born in the backseat of a 56 Chevy, something in my blood. Daddy wanted to be a traveling man so bad. I've seen pictures of him cruising some back road on a big black Harley or smiling out the window of a Packard. My mama was the settling down kind, but she had her secret desires. She kept road maps of the US in her dresser drawer. It was only in the summer when they dressed us kids up in our Dr. Dentons and take us to the drive-in, I'd see the gleam in their eyes, something wicked and forbidden and holy. Or we'd go for a Sunday drive and have a picnic in the parked car in the middle of an empty shopping center parking lot. I'd see all that blacktop, those endless white lines, and the breath would leave me. Of all the straight highways in this country, Interstate 95 is the biggest, and that's the way I go. When I tie off my arm and make the roads run blue, that's the heart and the freedom. I go that way too. About 5 years ago, I was sitting in the window seat of a greasy diner just outside of Roscoe in upstate New York State. The jukebox was way up, loud, playing a song by Aretha, Call Me the Moment You Get There. The sky was purple over the Delaware Valley, and the black road cut away to the left, down a hill. Over her voice, I heard all the songs I've ever heard in roadside jukeboxes, a song of all the faces and places I've known, of all the pictures that come in and focus sharp as the light of a laser, a song I still sing. I would like to say that I met David Wojnarowicz 50 miles north of Santa Fe in a truck stop, but I didn't. In fact, it would have been impossible. By the time he was hopping freights out of Pasco, Washington, I was flying coast to coast in a jumbo jet. And when he was catching rides in semis down Route 6, I was eating strawberries I had bought at the Saskatoon Canadian Pacific Station in my private room with the fold-down sink, watching the planes shimmer in the wind of sunset. But we met in Brooklyn, New York, and we found we share that feeling of peace and freedom as we disappeared down a road, and we both hear singing in the squeal of tires over rain-slicked roads and the drone of a diesel and the tongues of people. Here you will find 35 monologues from that singing. These are the voices of men and women you will encounter as you travel the highways and back roads of this land. And these are the sights one man has seen as he cut through the all of America. He uses no tape recorder, but his recall is pretty damn good. Find the vein, go straight to the heart, and start singing. Somewhere up around the bend, I'll be singing too. Brian Butterick.
I don't remember exactly when I met Brian, but I do remember at one point he and I ended up sharing a bed together on Ludlow Street. We all lived on Ludlow, probably because one of us had gotten thrown out of our apartments. And I hung out at the Pyramid in the very beginning. I used to bartend at A7, which was the after-hours hardcore punk club across the street. So you went to the Pyramid for a breath of fresh air, I suppose. No slam dancing at the Pyramid. And I always had a lot of fun with Brian. I never did anything creatively with him, but one of my favorite stories about him is I had this sharkskin suit that I bought off somebody right outside the Indian spots on First Avenue. It was like $5, right? I thought it was like really slick, and at the time I was very, very thin, so Brian and I basically were the same size. And I had this fabulous suit, and he says, this is when he was working at the Mud Club, before he was at Pyramid, and he said, can I borrow that to work tonight? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so he's wearing it, and then the next day he comes back, and it's covered in paint. And I'm like, what the hell happened to my suit? And he goes, there were these guys from Jersey, and I wouldn't let them in, so they came back with buckets of paint and threw it on me. And I was livid. And he tried to convince me, such was Brian's gift, that he tried to convince me that it was now actually art, and I should wear it. And I didn't go for it. I wasn't really aware of the Hattie period of his life because I knew him. You know, I hung out at the Pyramid all the time. Drank for free, hung out. Remember when Wigstock started, I just spent a lot of time there, and all the great music he booked and all the great stuff, and lost track of him, as you do. And then one day I happened to be seeing Three Penny Opera somehow, and then I'm like, wait a minute, is that Brian? And I saw him afterwards, and the last time I saw him was when Three Teens got back together for the show at the Whitney. I'm really glad I went because I think he passed several months after that, and he was funnier than shit. Everybody here knows that. And I think Brian is responsible for one of my favorite expressions. If he's not responsible, then he gave it to somebody, where he would refer to somebody, go, he's not a well woman. And I always associate, whether he said it or not, I'm giving it to him because it just sounds so Brian to me. So I'm really surprised and honored that I was asked to read this, because I really, that was a really important part of our lives that time, the early 80s and the Lower East Side. My life changed a lot after that. I mean, we all cleaned up our acts, literally and figuratively. But Brian was a hoot, man. He was fucking funny and shit. And I will say, sharing a bed with that man, a twin bed, was not fun. Was not fun. And never lend him clothing. That was the lesson. So this is something he wrote. Oh, I was going to say one more thing. I knew him. He was my friend, and I had no idea the depth of his talent and his creativity until I read the biography of David. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, really? And I just thought that's so cool that he just was that. He didn't have to tell you. He was that. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have to go, oh, and by the way, I did this or I did that. So here's to you, Brian. He was a good guy. All right, so this is from the spring of 1990, and it's called The 70s. Can I do it without the mic? I can do it without the mic, right? With the mic? Okay. The other day, I found out that Halston had passed away, and I felt strangely affected. Why did I feel this way? After all, I was never a big fan of his. By the time I had heard of him, this Midwestern boy who moved to the big city and changed his name, he had already licensed out that name to be mass-produced. And this was years before I ever had the occasion to wear an item of women's clothing. I realized it was because his name was symbolic of an era of feeling. The 60s were over, and none too soon. By my house is wetlands, and I often am reminded of the fashion mistakes. Sorry, I remember wetlands. Remember wetlands? Yeah. And the fashion mistakes of the 60s. Unwashed long hair, love beads, and sandals. But the 70s, as someone said, was a very wide decade. Wide hair blow-dried, wide bell-bottoms, wide lapels on jackets, wide stripes, and a wide line to the gas pumps. The 70s were Uncle Charlie's North, Sex and Abandoned Piers, or the Old West Side Highway, 12 West, Les Mouches, I can't pronounce it, sorry, the Cock Ring, the Anvil, the Park Miller Theater on 43rd Street, Quaaludes and Lip Gloss, and Studio 54, Maggie Trudeau, Liza, Andy, Bianca, and of course, Halston. At studio, Bob McBride, Truman Capote's friend, was watching Bianca take poppers, and he turned to Diana Vreeland. It really becomes more like pagan Rome every day, he said. She said, well, I should hope so. Isn't that what we're after? And we were. Someone once asked Halston, "Why don't you marry Bianca?" "Because," he replied, hands on hips, "I'm the hostess here." Somewhere, he still is.
I'm John Jesurun. I arrived at the pyramid in, I guess, early '82, and then spent a long time there doing my episodic serial Chang and Avoid Moon, which was there for about a year. Anyway, I spent quite a lot of time at the Pyramid Club, and Brian, was I just have to say, was a real presence there, and I always remember him deep into the night, standing either near the door or somewhere near the bar, very tall, his head looking out over surveying the scene, I guess, and wondering what on earth is he even thinking about? What is he looking at? And anyway, he had a great presence like that for me, and he would also was able to fix issues that might happen before or after a performance or during a performance. He was able to somehow hold a lot of the chaos there together in his own way. And he had a great, very dry attitude that I think solved a lot of problems for people immediately. So I always appreciated being around him. And then also, I think it was wonderful. Eventually, he ended up doing Black Lips, which eventually took over the Monday night slot, which was the slot that Bobby Bradley had given to me, and then eventually turned into the theater night. Kasutis Nakas, a lot of different people did theater things on that particular night, and so Black Lips then eventually took over the Monday nights, and he invited me to go and see it, and it was kind of astounding, completely subversive, and some of the things were almost impossible to understand, which was great. Total pyramid kind of idea. And anyway, I really appreciated that they'd kind of gone into, Black Lips kind of went into the deep end of everything. And Brian was there, and anyway, to me, he was a great presence, and so I just appreciate him as time went on. The other thing is interesting, that Brian would seem to appear everywhere. Whatever he would be, whatever continued after the pyramid, he seemed to always be there, including, yes, theater pieces and Jackie 16, all kinds of things. And then eventually Howl. So this was kind of it was a life, it was a career. He influenced a lot of people. He was always there, he supported people. And it was great always to arrive at a place, and of course, who would be there? This tall head looking above the crowd would be Brian was there again. So that was, for me, very reassuring, that things were moving on, that he was moving on, despite whatever. Somehow Brian always was able to surface again at the next event and the next piece of art that would show up. So I'm going to try to read this with my glasses. And I don't know, there's no date on this one. This one's called A Tale of Three Edie's, a holiday foible. And I really like this one because it has a real swagger to it and a real bite to it, which I think could also be very Brian. So, and it's also kind of a tale of a kind of a historical event from a certain period of time. And the one thing I also have to say is, reading all these different things by Brian, is that a lot of them, as a writer, a lot of them contain a lot of interesting details about all kinds of things. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, he noticed that, he's mentioning this, he's mentioning that, and he's painting a whole picture by all these things that he's somehow managed to notice and think that he's going to be able to put into this story or poem, whatever it is. So there's a lot of details especially for somebody who's lived from that period of time to this period of time, that I'm grateful that he's mentioned because they're now saved for posterity. So this is one of them. So, A Tale of Three Eddies, A Holiday Foible. This is a tale of the horror days, of a New York that no longer exists, yet somehow still does, because not only did we witness it, but it is somehow burned into the Manhattan schist for all to experience, if they would only look. It involves three Eddies. Admittedly, two are rather tenuous, but I feel they all must be mentioned. They were all batty. You might even say they were out of their minds. All are dead, and all are quintessentially New York. The first would be, of course, Edith Bouvier Beale, who could be more New York. Born here, old money, lovelorn, failed cabaret star, dysfunctional relationship with her mother, with whom she starred in the Maysles Brothers' 1975 documentary Grey Gardens, and whom I never met. However, I did speak with her endlessly on the telephone during negotiations, which began on Christmas Eve, to bring her back to Manhattan for the initial DVD release of the film in the mid-1990s, because I, along with Mr. John Dynell of New York, ran a weekly club night at Irving Plaza called Grey Gardens. The negotiations failed. She never had her third comeback, but in Christmas of 1995, we had hope. The second is none other than Edie Sedgwick, 1960s, wacky heiress who moved here from Connecticut, reinvented herself, took drugs, met Andy Warhol, the factory, nodded out in her Chelsea hotel room, and set it on fire. OD'd, New York, never met her, but I will reference her indeed. The last Edie, maybe the best, as far as I'm concerned, is Edith Massey. Yes, Edith the Egg Lady. John Waters. In 1982, I hosted a Christmas Day dinner for her here in New York City, in a breakdown loft on the Lower East Side, the Bowery, between Stanton and Rivington, to be exact. I had moved there from my former place of residence, the loft above the Pyramid Club on Avenue A, a club that we started in December 1981. I only moved there just before December 82, when it dawned on me that maybe living above the club you run is not such a great idea, when Nico, Warhol superstar, broke into the apartment, climbed into my loft bed, and woke me up for an advance on her upcoming shows. For drugs. Nico, drugs, the factory, Edie Sedgwick, you connect the dots. The loft on the Bowery was actually the primary residence of Ira A., aka Needles Jones, who is actually performing later tonight at the Delancey with Penny Arcade. Warhol, factory, Edie Sedgwick, drugs, not Penny so much, but Needles, yes. The loft was filled with the effluvia of many greats: Tuxedo Moon the band, Anya Phillips. The drug of choice then was heroin. As far as we were concerned, everyone did heroin. Needles had a side business going on. She would buy large quantities of heroin, painstakingly open every bag, take some out, reseal it, and then resell the bags she stepped on to the whores on Christie Street, thereby making enough in product to feed her own ever-growing habit. So, Christmas, drugs, New York, the Bowery, city of Jews, nothing was shut down, except on Christmas, all the drug dealers become suddenly fierce Roman Catholics and stop doing business and spend the day with their families and their children. But Needles had thought ahead. This was plenty of heroin for all of Lower Manhattan in the loft. The other thing that batch of heroin was unusually strong. So Needles, heroin, Christmas Eve. I had booked Edith Massey for Christmas night at the Pyramid. She was promoting her new single, Punks Get Off the Grass, which somehow seemed to us to be a very Christmassy thing to do. So we had a Christmas dinner party, pre-show for her. And what do you serve on Christmas? Why, a Christmas ham. Somehow Needles had managed to procure a Christmas day in New York. A ham, a box of clothes, a lot of champagne, and some other stuff, I don't know what, we never ate. Junkies never do. We do the dope, set a woman named Jane Alexander, not the actress, to sticking the clothes into the huge ham. Bang on the door, enter Edith Massey with her road manager, Jim Farrat. Behind the trail, every single junkie whore from Christie Street. Jim, who had by then been clean and sober for 100 years, was horrified. Edith shoves him in, sits down, is served champagne. I look over. Jane Alexander had nodded out, face first into the ham. I look back, and Edith is surrounded by every $10 whore in Manhattan saying, I love New York. I used to be a B-girl in the 1940s. I love New York because every night we drank champagne and took Benzedrine and never ate.
So I met Brian, it was 1979. One morning, like 5 a.m., I was out. And of course, at that point, when you get horny, you make your way to the piers on the West Village. And this one pier was completely empty, except on the second floor, I ran into this incredibly beautiful, tall guy. And we just started talking, we fooled around. And then he asked me to go back to his place on Canal Street, so I did. We got naked, I watched him shoot up, I wasn't interested in that. We made love, and then some time passed. At that point, I was performing at the Anvil with Tanya Ransom. Tanya Ransom had started the first New Wave night at the Anvil in '79, and they let women in, and there was Bill Bauman was a DJ, it wasn't disco. So I was doing kind of Dada punk drag at that point. And we used to go out, a bunch of us together in drag. One night we went to the Mud Club, showed up, and at the door there's Brian, and I'm, like, hello Brian, he didn't know who I was, so I finally revealed who I was, and he let us in, and that's that. But I'd like to think that drag, our particular version of drag may have ignited his drag fire. Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to read this piece that Brian wrote. This is dedicated to two people, my father and my Uncle Freddie. Today is my father's birthday. He was born September 16th, 1917. Uncle Freddie was not my uncle, rather my father's, but we called him Uncle Freddie just the same. Uncle Freddie was also queer, and I don't know that much about him except that he was caught molesting a young boy and was ostracized by the entire family, except my father. Uncle Freddie came to dinner at our apartment once a week. That was something for a family with 3 small children, all boys, considering the mores of the time. Our apartment was pretty small then. We all ate at a tiny table in the kitchen. The only place available for guests was to pull down the oven door to make a sort of table and slide a chair under it. This is one of my memories of Uncle Freddie sitting with his plate at the oven. Uncle Freddie died alone, broke, and allegedly lonely in the late 60s in Binghamton, one of those upstate New York cities where people seem to go to die alone, broke, and lonely. My father was the only one in the family to make funeral arrangements. Even Uncle Freddie's sister, my grandmother, couldn't or wouldn't be bothered. The lesson whispered unconsciously to me was, this will be your unhappy fate should you abandon the safety of a marriage, children, the family. and this was supposed to be my gay role model. Of course, there were other, more positive role models for me. Aunt Grace, my mother's aunt, who wore tweed suits, could take apart a car engine in no time at all, and lived with her companion of many years. But that is, as they say, another story. Some months ago, while visiting, my father told me he was doing shows at hospitals, nursing homes, senior citizens groups. He plays a lot of instruments and sings, and he would like to share with me, to show me a videotape of the last one. But, he added, all the men are wearing their wives' clothes, so I'm in a dress. I said to him, well, I don't know if you realize it, but for the past 10 years, he said, I know, I read the New York Times. And I thought to myself, my God, 2 drag queens in the family. My father's blood runs through my veins. And Uncle Freddie's, I forgot to tell you, he would sit by the oven door and eat his whole dessert before the meal, which as kids we thought very weird, but now I realize how much I am like that in many ways. Life ain't worth it unless you can have the cake and eat it too first. So, it's for the Uncle Freddie's dead, present, and future that I put on this dress every week to say, we can't and won't go back into the closet, shut the door, or our mouths, and act normal, and don't raise a ruckus. And for my father, I put this glamorous gown on each week because I guess I am my father's son, after all. Happy birthday, Dad. Does anyone know David Wojtarowicz's birthday? It was September, something around the 16th, I think. Because I knew David and I had close I'm the 21st. David somewhere a few days before me, but it'd be interesting if David and Brian's father had the same birthday. I don't know why. So I'm going to do something really weird right now. But Brian wrote this poem called California. And at the top of the page is notated to the tuning of Cold Blue Steel and Sweet Fire. Now that's a Joni Mitchell song, Cold Blue Steel and Sweet Fire. So I decided to try to sing his lyric to that melody, to a karaoke track. But I figured it would be good to maybe read Joni's original lyric for you first, to put it in context. It's a song about heroin addiction. And I don't know if she's doing it from the first person either, but who knows. Anyway, cold blue steel out of money, one eye for the beat police. Sweet fire calling, you can't deny me, now you know what you need. Underneath the jungle gym, hollow gray fire, escape thief, looking for sweet fire, shadow of lady release. Come with me, I know the way, she says. It's down, down, down the dark ladder. Do you want to contact somebody first? Leave someone a letter? You can come now, or you can come later. A wristwatch, a ring, a downstairs screamer, edgy black cracks of the sky. Pin cushion prick, fix this poor bad dreamer. Money, cold shadows reply. Pawn shops crisscrossed and padlocked, corridors spit on prayers and pleas. Sparks fly up from sweet fire, black soot of lady release. Come with me, I know the way, she says. It's down, down, down the dark ladder. You want to contact somebody first? Does it really matter if you come now or if you come later? Red water in the bathroom sink, fever and the scum brown bowl. Blue steel still begging, but it's indistinct. Someone's hi-fi drumming jelly roll. Concrete concentration camp, bashing in veins for peace. Cold blue steel and sweet fire fall into lady release. Come with me, I know the way, she says. It's down, down, down the dark ladder. Do you want to contact somebody first? I mean, what does it really matter? You're going to come now, or you're going to come later. So that's Joni's original lyric. And okay. Laurel Canyon, Laurel honey, I have an open mind, an open eye green as the Pacific, and just as blind. Must be water in my chart, must be a pain in my heart. I know it's there to stay, but I'll be going far. In my convertible car on this last day of California golden days. Echo Park, my voice rebounds through LA's maze. I have done nothing but lie, lie, lie for days. In the bedroom on the beaches and in the sun, I love you, I love you, everyone. I'm a moving maker with an open tongue, a Fellini faker as I run. Dreamscapes and the mirrors and wide open freeways. But beyond Santa Monica, who could say, who could challenge the ocean? Who could challenge the light in the morning sun? Not I, not I, and nobody gets wise. Nobody shakes the headlights from their wide open eyes. Over California, you feel like a homeland to me. Crossing America from dance floor to dance floor, from sea to shining sea. Manhattan Beach I deserve exactly what I get. I feel so out of reach as I try to forget. I'm just riding around in circles, don't think I'll ever recover. I'm just a son of a soda jerk, waiting to be discovered. I got a friend, he drives a 54 DeSoto. He's got a big house just off El Dorado. And I come just like a dog whenever he calls, to reel and drown in the Nembutals. There's a bar in the front, and there's a bar in the back.
Good afternoon. So, just a little background. I moved to New York from Kansas City, Missouri in 1980 after going to art school there. And I moved here with a band that my boyfriend was managing, and I didn't play any instruments, but I was really into music. I was into other people's music. And then I met Jesse from Three Teens Kill Four at the Peppermint Lounge, and I met David Wonderovich there as well. And they were putting a band together, and I was like, their drummer had bailed, and so I was like, well, I could help you. I could help you rehearse. And so I was like thinking, like, I'll just help them for a while, and then, you know, that'll be that. But Then David said something to me, and the first time I ever heard him open his mouth was at that moment, and I was like, wow, you should really be in a band because his voice is so incredible, very low. And one of the pieces that I'm going to read, Doug is going to do the part that David has done, and we've also in the past with the band had other people do this vocal part. But I'm going to do that after reading this first one. When I was small, when I was 3, they tried to take you away from me. Now I am 22 and I couple with you. There's a man who sings to me late at night when the wind blows free. Now I am 22 and I do what I do. I'm feeling stronger every day, feeling brighter every way. When sea green meets sky blue, meets the me and you. When you meet me, that's the road to freedom. Today I'm 22. I rise to meet the me in you. Every man's got the same secret name at the source of his blue veins. But when I was 18, I could have died for somebody else's American dream. Riding through a sky so blue, when the man in me meets the man in you, I'd fight to the death to meet the man in you. Because when you meet me, that's the road to freedom. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to me. And I lived in that apartment on Canal Street with Brian for a little while, and we didn't have any heat, and we used to bust up pallets to put in our wood stove. This was called The Eye Opened Sideways, and this was words by David and Brian. Brian wrote the music for it, but this is not a song, this is a reading, so.
National secrets become national knowledge. National secrets become national knowledge.
The traffic brings the morning around. Sounds beneath the wheels like ships, expelling fog over the center ocean. One morning when the eye opened sideways on some sullen mattress, when where the pillow holds a geography of language, gesture, and motion, direction being just a beat of the heart. Direction being just a beat of the heart. Direction being just the beat of the heart. Direction being just the beat of the heart. Recalling arms tattooed with snakes and fatigue, beggars and heroes down these streets. Some robes slipped from beneath the sheets of Pasolini. The cinematic loveliness of a traitor descending before firing squads in the village square. Living by laws of chance and not order. 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 I'm only here to even the score, to give you back what you had before. The only frontier left is the sky, base of the myth behind your eyes. I'm only here to even the score, to give you back what you had before. The only frontier left is the sky, base of the myth behind your eyes. National secrets become national knowledge. 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 That's just something of the mystery of him. A cup of coffee taken from the stove, blowing out delirium from the base of the skull. Expelling dreams and bringing the working world back into his eyes, realizing I'm no longer a boy, and that I'm not all that American. 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 I'm only here to even the score, to give you back what you had before. The only frontier left is the sky, base of the myth behind your eyes. National secrets become national knowledge. National secrets become national knowledge. National secrets become national knowledge. National secrets become national knowledge.
because when I think of Hattie, I don't think of nature. I think of 2 o'clock in the morning. I think of smoking cigarettes. I think of like late night, and this is about, you'll see what it's about. I have almost always lived near an ocean. In the mid-1970s, I lived in Provincetown, which is literally at the end of the earth on Cape Cod. I lived in San Francisco, with its 3 foghorns blowing 3 separate musical notes. I believe an A, a C, and a G. A, C, G. And one summer at Malibu, where the Pacific attempts to disprove its name by being anything but peaceful. Right now, I live on a small 10-mile square piece of land surrounded by water, Manhattan Island. Why does the ocean relax, soothe, and even help to heal? Sure, we know the sound of the tickling surf is soothing. There is also an excess of negative ions produced as each wave turns onto the sand, and the negative ions make you feel, well, happy. But that doesn't really explain it. I think it has something to do with our bodies being 90% water, and so humankind is ruled by the moon, which rules the sea. This weekend, I spent some time in Cherry Grove on Fire Island. Not having been out there in over 5 years, I stood at the picture window in the house of friends, in the pouring rain, facing the bay, and scanned the horizon. I often like to do this when I'm by the sea. I assume others do too, as they are always looking out to sea. But the edge of the ocean is a place fraught with danger. The rare flash floods, violent storms, rising tides. Homes, people, boats are constantly being washed away, and the coastline is forever changing and rearranging. And of course, there are strong rip tides, and I suppose sharks. Crabs will rip your toes while you're swimming. Jellyfish will sting you. Gabriel Rotello told me that each season at the Grove is marked by a death, usually in May, which seems to give each summer its own particular memory. This was the year that so-and-so died of a heart attack. That was the year the body of so-and-so was washed ashore. That was when so-and-so died in the tragic dune buggy accident. This is a dangerous, tragic place. There are other dangers, perhaps not so apparent, so easily cataloged and filed. My friend Victor has been coming here for 10 years. It's like a big gay club, he says. It's the one place where gay people can be themselves, and if other people come onto the island to harass them, it's the one place where they'll be thrown out. This is alluring to me, and I'm actually considering renting a house there next season, like a moth to a flame. Considering because there are dangers of the self-made ghetto becoming a prison. But prison or club, it's a high-priced one. Newspapers cost double what they do on shore. Food and lodging are expensive. Everything must be brought over by boat. People are prone to island fever, and they often lose their minds. I'm reminded of sitting in the lobby of the Royal Hawaiian Hotel in Honolulu and watching people queuing up to buy day-old newspapers as soon as they arrived with an almost religious intensity. You come to these places to get away, but you cannot do without. That, of course, is the real puzzle. And of course, the sea. It's very open-minded, and it makes no judgments at all about race, social status, or sexual preference. It will take Calvin Klein's house just as quickly as it will attack a beach shack. And that is what makes us feel satisfied and comfortable and able to live with the inconvenience and the danger.
I'm going to get right into it for this one. Just a little background on this piece. This was written on stationery, Boy Scouts of America, Troop 469, HNS, Church of St. John, Bronx, New York, 10463. When it was written, I don't know. Aldo, do you know? Do you know when this was written, this particular one? On the...
It would have been, I would say, late 70s.
There we go, everybody. Late 70s.
Mid to late 70s.
Slave to the silver screen. I'm just a slave to the silver screen. The atom bomb, the love machine, the nail I set, and the fame don't mean a thing. I already changed the baby's flame. I'm just a slave to your evil eye. You're in between, you're cut and dry. I never felt so lost. Think I'll fly. Just get on the airplane and fly, fly away. I was just sitting low in the balcony when I felt your hand on my knee. I couldn't think I couldn't see. I said, this is where I want to be. Now I'm laying low in somebody's house. The phone keeps ringing and I'm afraid to go out. Two. Sandwiches at Orchard Beach. The greatest gift you might give to me is to share your body's moisture, to give your water to the dead, to be like the moon upon dunes. The sand sifts into sandwiches at Orchard Beach, grits in your teeth and blows around. Stay here long enough and you will turn apart, trapped like the sound in seashells. That's seashells, that was how it was spelled. Like these vast deserts of Brighton, Coney Island, or the farthest rock away your mind can think. Three. My old man has made the scenes, knows the ropes, the Crisco queens, makes sloppy jokes, has ways and means. My old man tells me where I can get off, meets me there, fucks my ass, pulls my hair. My old man says awful things, swears he loves me, buys me rings, makes me trust whatever stings. My old man's an awful baddie, makes me feel real laid back catty, knows my heart belongs to daddy. So a little bit about me, for people that don't know me. Hi everybody, good evening, welcome. Good to see all these nice, bright, happy faces. I'm Torin, longtime collaborator for the people that do know me. Hair, makeup for Hattie, longtime friend. Many a moon, many midnight of meetings for me and Hattie having breakfast, talking about many of you. Just so you go away tonight knowing this, he loved every single one of you. Please leave knowing that. He spoke about everybody. It's just so surreal, you know. Anyway, I'll be good. Anyway, so what you might not know about me as well is that I did Hattie's photo shoot for Three Penny Opera. So I'm going to give a little anecdote about that. Where were we on that? Oh, here we go. So I got this phone call, like I get from Hattie, Torin, I got something going on. I'm like, okay, great. What is it? Okay, let's buy a wig, let's do this, whatever. I'm gonna be on Broadway. You're gonna be on Broadway. Okay, that's good. What are you gonna be in? Three Penny Opera. Oh, wow, weird shit. Good for you. Great. So, who else is in it? Alan Cumming, Nellie Mackay, Cyndi Lauper, fabulous cast. And then he's like, oh, Flotilla's in it too. I'm like, oh, so what are you gonna do? And there's a fourth Edie in Hattie's life, besides that poem. Edie the Entertainer was also in that, just a little side note. So, I'm like, great, this is fabulous. He's like, Torin, I need headshots. Great, what are we gonna do? Where are we gonna get it? No, I want you to do it. Okay, I could do that stuff, not a problem. I don't want it to look at actor headshotting. Great. So we went to my studio in Staten Island, shot a whole day of fun, crazy stuff, and we ended up, if you ever saw the picture, it's him looking like this. In Playbill. And I tried for the whole square, like, let's do, no, I want it weird. Great. And going forward after that, we looked at it, we laughed, we called it our Charles Nelson Riley headshot. That's what it is. It was gay, he loved it, that was Hattie. So that back cutout was a dress I bought for him at Macy's, that yellow dress. Calvin Klein, $20. Necklace by Happy Face, one of them's by me. That old wig was several years for Stevie's and all these other fun things. The tumbleweed wig with on the Hattiekin, that was a recreation of the tumbleweed from the 2015 craziness at Howl. So many adventures we've all had. Again, it makes me so happy to see all of you here because hearing the voice, hearing the name, seeing the face through the years, I might not know you personally, it's so surreal how much he loved all of you, all of us. You know, so thank you for that. One more. So, talking about a little bit about fashion, here we go. Pearl Kids are cool, Adidas ain't. Sassoon jeans are okay, but not Gloria Vanderbilt. Halston is in, Gucci out. Leave your keys and red handkerchiefs at home. Spike pumps are in, platforms out. Leave your shoulder bags at home, invest in a patent leather clutch. Plastic and vinyl are just as good as leather. Imitation is the watchword. Simulated leopard and tiger help protect endangered species. Pillbox hats with veils and pastel hues for that now look. Rosaries make excellent necklaces. Your old Fredericks of Hollywood wear is worth a fortune today. Multicolored cowboy boots, yes. Fry boots, no. He actually had fry boots. Tattoos are in, especially those of the prison variety. Also, children's lick-on transfers. All types of amphetamines may be considered de rigueur. Plastic pop-apart pearls are the thing. Safety pins are on their way out. Many shop at Robert Hall's. The next time you think Bloomingdale's, try Lampston's. Use a Kennedy Memorial tapestry for an attractive bath mat. Stilettos of both kinds should be employed. Lucite makes eye-catching jewelry. Some of my best accessories come from industrial waste bins. Leatherette is a distinct possibility. Ace bandages or gauze, any kind of prosthetic device can complete the look.